You're listening to a TGM production. Hello, and welcome to my house. Yes, welcome back to ChatterBox, the podcast that keeps on giving. We are now on Series 2, Episode 1. The show of all shows where I, Tom Mason, just ramble on. Now, today we're going to be rambling, oh yeah, let's ramble, woo! Rambling about topics. First of all, Tom Mason's third channel, The Weird Side, where you're watching the visual version of this. No, nothing much visually going on, because that's the nature of this version of the podcast. And if you really want to know what's visually going on, then I'm just leaning on the tripod stand and walking around, because you sort of get more of a lights on. You sort of get more of a visual. You sort of get a better mindset of what's going on and what to do. So, let's talk about it. To talk about your friend of mine, the third channel, The Weird Side. Yep. And on that, the last video, let's have a look what the last video was. So, open up. Open up. Let's take a look at what it is. Take a look. Let's take a look, right? Instead of singing, because that's not going to help. Right. Let's go to the third channel, The Weird Side. The last video was 3 weeks ago, 15 views, and it was ChatterBox Series 1, Episode 6. That's a podcast. Episode previously was Ghostwatch, a Scared Nation pilot. Was an audio thing I did for uni, but I was so proud of it, I shared it online. Number 3 is a bit of a rewrite of Six Idiots podcast. Right, that's podcast. And then previous to that was ChatterBox Series 5 Episode 1, which is also a podcast. And previous to that was For the Love of Soaps, which isn't a podcast. Now, what that proves is the last few videos have been podcasts, and we're not too happy about them. Now, TGM Production, my production company, do make more than just podcasts, it seems. Well, we do. So, what the next film on the third channel will be, will be out soon, but it'll be about more back to what I'm talking about TV. I think, if I remember rightly, it's going to be about TV shows that are just adverts, right? To give you a sneak preview of what I'll be talking about mainly, it's mainly the Scottish programme on BBC Scotland called The Entertainment Mix with Michelle McManus. Not going to go into too much detail here, but all I'll say is that it reminds me a lot of, reminds me to go and listen to a radio show. And that's all I'll say for now. So, third channel will improve over time, but at the moment I'm at university doing my final university project. So it's taking up most of my time, and most of the days I just have time enough now to film one video, film one thing. So that's the main channel. And sometimes the camera dies, so I can't film the second thing, or other things have got in the way. So there's a lot of factors, but I run 33 YouTube channels, and these factors are going to crop up every single day. These factors are just gonna crop up. Now, the reason why I'm making this is because I want to talk about a soap opera, right? So, as you probably know, and I've already mentioned, For the Love of Soaps is my soap series where I talk about soap operas such as Doctors, Neighbours, The Archers, Hollyoaks, EastEnders, Coronation Street, Emmerdale, the original Wentworth, Prison Solomon H, Home and Away, Days of Our Lives, Doctors, can't think of any others now. Crossroads, Take the High Road, Brookside. Yeah, no, I can't think of any others. And we're going to talk about them in detail. Now, the last episode, which we did on the 1st of January 2026, we talked about the Archers. Now, if you think about the Archers, it's a daily radio broadcast show. So it's on every day, mostly, nearly. And it's a show about the residents of Ambridge. Now, I spoke about it on the 1st of January because it was, and it still is, its anniversary month. So that meant that they were doing a special episode and a special few episodes, because not only were they talking about, oh, we love the Archers for all these years, and not only all that, but they're also doing their own like murder mystery type thing and doing the thing. But so let's just say, so the Archers had its anniversary. So this is how the Archers work. So you've got the Archers Omnibus. Then you have the BBC official Archers podcast. Outside of that, similar to Doctor Who in a sense. Outside of that, you've got fan Archers podcasts such as Diddly 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 Dim. Yeah, if I've pronounced that right. We've got all things Archers, I think it's called, or something. But there's a lot of Archers-based podcasts. But these are all so the BBC official one is official, where they go about, walk about, talk about with the cast and crew that week's lot of episodes, right? And that's more official. You get the right cast. You get the official cast, right? Not just any cast, but the official cast. And you get, not only do you get the official cast, you get the official writers, the official creatives, and you get a lot of officialness about it. Now, if you then look at the fan podcasts, majority of it is the hosts having a conversation about that week's lot of the Archers. Like many rewatch podcasts, I would call this a re-listen podcast, is what I would call them. And they talk about that week's episode. Oh, what is I can't think of an Archers character now. It's really annoying me now. But it's all about that, and it's like it's been going for years and years and years. All these podcasts, apart from the BBC one that's more recent than the others. But I like doing things, so I make discussion films, review films, sketch shows, sitcoms, dramas, you name it, and I'm trying to collect a piece of evidence that I've created in every single sector, really. So for podcasting, I've got a sitcom podcast. Well, not necessarily a sitcom, but it's going to probably change into a sitcom, which is my Album Before Pop podcast. I've got a sketch show podcast, which is going down the rabbit hole. I've got a interview podcast, which is niche. I've got a lot of like comedies, not many drama podcasts, but I might generate a drama podcast in the future. But more to me point really is that the one that I haven't done is a limited series podcast where you get a podcast that begins and ends with 6 episodes that have a narrative structure and not necessarily return for a second series. So it starts and finishes on one episode. So it's like, so it might be a podcast about. I can't think now of a program. Could be about, let's say, True Detectives, but you could have a limited series just about that series of True Detectives, right? So it starts with you talking about episode 1, and it ends with you talking about episode 6, and that's the end of the podcast, right? So I'm developing here at TGM, and we want to announce it because we want to make sure that it's clear on our attention. It's clear to the public what we're trying to get out of this, right? I'm not saying I'm an Archers expert. I'm not saying I'm an expert in the Archers. I know just enough about the Archers. And I want to create something called the Tales from Ambridge, which is a 6-part podcast where anything goes. In this 6-part podcast, we'll be discussing the Archers. In this 6-part podcast, we will be creating fan Archers characters and fan Archers settings. Hopefully, we'll be discussing elements of the Archers, playing clips of the Archers, and there will be an Archers theme digest, but in a 6-episode block. Once episode 6 is aired, bim bam boom, it's gone. There's no more the Archers, no more. This is my tribute to the love, but this isn't stopping me from making the videos, films, or whatever about the Archers for the series, for the love of soaps. That doesn't stop me from doing that. This is a 6-episode, done and dusted project. We get into the project, we get out of the project, and that'll be it. No more, no more. So it's a very special thing to do, and it makes everything more exciting. Now, if we go to the Archers on Spotify, which is the app I've opened, the Archers. Yep, let's make sure we spell it right. Press podcasts. Obviously, you have the Archers series, but we have, because I'm just trying to make sure I definitely get the names right. This is why we're doing this. All About the Archers, which is a podcast all about the Archers. No, we just want the names of. We've got the Ambridge on the Couch, which Ambridge on the Couch takes an in-depth look at the Archers, occasionally wondering why we listen. Yep, that's one Archers theme podcast. Then, if we move on back to our search results, we've got. Well, obviously, we've got more of the BBC. We've got Dum DT Dum, which is what I was trying to get the name of before, but I didn't get it right. We've got this other podcast I didn't know exists, but it's actually an audiobook. The Archers Looking for Love, 1968 to 1986. We've got The Cider Shed, which is an Archers theme podcast. Obviously, because Spotify now has Audible involved, it's got a lot of audiobooks that are perceived as podcasts, but they're not really podcasts at all. So I think that is about it from what I can gather. Yep, from what I can see here, that's about it. So mine would be a sort of another hole, if you will. So it'll fill a gap of what the Archers hasn't ever done before. So the Archers will have never had a podcast that's 6 episodes and that's narratively has a beginning and end. So it'll be presented in a style of a documentary, if you will, but not really be a documentary. So we've not yet decided on how we're going to set it out and what we're going to do to make sure that it fits, but that is another mission for the day when we come to it. Now, it won't be out for quite a while due to, as I've said, my prior commitments. So it will be a good, probably like year and a half or so before the episodes actually come out. But we will be developing it and making sure that we deliver the best thing I could possibly deliver, because that's what we want here at TGM, is we want to be able to deliver the best of the best without compromising at all on the best, because that isn't the type of people we are here at TGM. But again, we also like to announce with TGM, and I know probably not the right platform to do it, but I am, is that we've now got our own online social media page. Yep. So if you go to tommason.uk/TGM or /TGM-productions, you will see, if you look at online presence, you'll see all the places you can now follow. So the Twitch account technically isn't TGM's in itself, but we set it up in the official Tom Mason name so that we can try out ideas and test out things and utilize it. But it means that Tom can also use it in his own personal account as well. We've got LinkedIn, but that's Tom's personal account, but he does share stuff as us. So he says, my production company, TGM, are proud to announce, and all that. So there is a lot of that happening, and other accounts, but I don't really understand, me personally, Tom Mason, don't really understand social media well enough to be able to say, oh yes, I'm doing this, that, the other, because personally, I'm just like any novice. I'm learning on the job, but I don't really know exactly how to do it. It's like certain apps don't allow links in posts or whatever, which to me actually make 0 sense. So it's like, well, how do you operate then? What's the matter, you? Hey, I don't know what the gist is or how that works, but again, I don't think it's meant for me to understand how that really works. It's for me to just play along with the game. So it's fine, and that's what makes it. That's what's going to make it interesting, is learning on the job and going, right, well, I've just learnt this. Now how do I learn it further? And so it's one of those things you've got to just develop and learn and sort of see the ways of it changing. Now, the other thing we need to learn and develop about, whilst we're on that topic of learning and development, because that's what you've got to do a lot of the time, is learn and develop. We've got to learn and develop ways of presenting my passion in a better sense. So let's talk about, let's say, Doctor Who Earthbound, which is my Doctor Who fan series that's, as I've announced already, coming to a close after series 3, because I felt, and on point of development, that it was sort of being trapped in this loop of going, oh, it's the same thing again and 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 again, and that isn't what we want. We don't want it to feel sort of trapped. We don't want it to feel like it's in a loop and a loop and a loop and a loop and a loop. That isn't what we want. What we want is a show that feels like paying an homage to Doctor Who, but trying to do something in a new, inventive way. And I feel that is what we've been doing, but whether or not we've been doing it really well is for another matter on another day and another time to work out. And that's not for me to work out. That's for the audience to work out. So I love the idea that I get to play the Doctor, the Dream Lord, and the Master, but I'm feeling that it's sort of been dwindled down to this sort of trapped in a loop situation. Having the spin-off series, Time Hoppers, having it on neutral, that creates more panic, in a sense of, it's like, well, should I have created that spin-off so soon? Should I have waited so I could generate that idea? Because I feel like I'm lacklustering. And I think it occurs when you think about fan projects. You have to make sure that it's really good so someone can go, I love that as well as such thing. And if you're involved in those multi-Doctor stories and multi things of fan projects, and you know you've done well, and you know that your character is on par with other major characters, and that's not always a bad thing. That sometimes could be a good thing. And having that recognition from the fans of other fan projects means that you've done your job well, you've done your job great, you've done your job impressively, and you've come to the point where you're learning about the job, and you're learning about things, and you're developing things, and you sort of get to a point where you're going, right, okay, so yes, it's worked. Yes, it's interesting, but where do we go next? What is the next steps on this project? And I think creating a wider world of a sequel series, of spin-offs, some form of other type of shows, it means that I can go, well, look, yes, I had a lot of fun making such and such a thing, but what I want to do now is sort of part the main series, take these characters individually, and bring them back. Because I did do spin-offs of the Dream Lord and the Master, but I think that ending their stories so I can move on from them characters and keeping my Doctor alive and working out what to do next is the next bit. And my passions lie in both TV, film, and radio, right? I'm making the fan series, but again, whilst developing ideas for a fan series, I'm also developing ideas for a sort of, I don't know, like audio drama. So Doctor Who audio drama, Doctor Who fan films are two passions in the Who universe that I love. I love listening to Red Twilight on Spotify. I love watching DW 2012. I just think that the world collides, so I get to create a universe where I can do audio drama, I can do fan films, fan series and whatnot, but I need to develop them so that they're a better skill and that the thing that I'm producing is better than it would be otherwise. And that's the problem you sort of face after a while, is going, well, how can I improve this? How can I make the quality better? How am I going to do this? How can I do it? And you watch other creators going, but how are they doing this? How are they making their shows so incredible? And I've still got a long way left to learn. And that's the thing, you have to learn on the job. And that's not an overall problem, but it's a problem that could be fixed, and a problem that could be generated, and a problem that has ways of solving itself. So, me creating a Substack about Doctor Who magazine, showcasing I love Doctor Who magazine, and I want to be featured in Doctor Who magazine and all this, and so you've got to just look back and go, right, that's an excellent thing I've done, but how can we make it even more excellent, such as this podcast? So, as we come to a close on this segment of the podcast, I've developed a brand new idea right in my noggin as we've been talking for the last 22 minutes and 27 seconds. I currently, my current camera is currently being fixed, right? So we're using what I name Osmo, but it's really called the Osmo Pocket 3. Who knows when the Osmo Pocket 4 is coming out? I don't know. I've just seen something. Right, let's just continue our conversation whilst walking. Right, so if you hear some other clattering noises, it's because I've just noticed something. And so, if you really think about it, right, there's a sticky bit off my wall falling down, so I need to fix that. Anyway, so I was thinking of ideas, and that's got something on it, the Osmo Pocket 3, called acting tracking. And so far I've been able to film stuff for 12 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. I mean, it does have some faults, so I have to reformat the SD card every so often when it corrupts. But here's what I think I should do. This is the second series of ChatterBox, and whilst I enjoy the feeling of just pressing record and talking whilst walking up to my door, which is here, and down to my window, right, which is, that's the sound of the curtain. Whilst I like doing that, I think that making this show more hybrid so that there's a sense of visual and audio stuff, so that if you're watching this, there's something interesting to look at, not just a waveform, if I create a waveform and not just other sounds, because the last episode was, and I can tell you right now, the episode length was 45 minutes and 10 seconds. We're currently at 24 minutes and 30 seconds. Now we want to beat 45 minutes, really. The 10 seconds is sort of optional. You can do whatever you want with that. You can change that if you want. You can alter it if you want. You can do whatever, but I want to try and beat 45 minutes. Because I think if I'm developing and improving on a skill, I've got to do it well. So what we'll be doing here on this podcast in the not too distant future, when I say not too distant future, I do mean within this episode, we are going to, at some point, add my favourite, your favourite, our favourite, the wonderful visual element. So we're going to use the Osmo. Osmo is what I like to call it, and it was what I will be calling it. We're going to be using the Osmo, and we're going to talk for, I don't know, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 13 minutes, I'm not too sure. And we're going to sort of then have some elements. And if you really know, if we really understand that it's going to enhance it, because yes, we can still use the technique of walking up and down, because that is the key element that we want to use. It also means I get to showcase the skills of the Osmo, because this podcast really is all about development, really about improving, really about doing things out of its own comfort zone and doing things that are equally as breaking the boundary of what this is. That's why it's called ChatterBox, because as you can tell, I can talk for here to high water. I can talk forever and ever, because currently I've talked for 26 minutes without stopping. But I could be recording for hours and hours, but I don't always have the same amount of time to record 45 minutes. So what I'll be doing is I'll be finishing recording this bit. We'll then come back and record in visual to add on to that 45 minutes. So if this ends at, let's say, 30 minutes, and then we film visually for, let's say, 15 minutes, it's 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. It'll take us to 45, but knowing my luck, when I'm trying to say bye, I'll wrap it up and go, right, bye-bye, 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 bye, and then we'll get to 46 minutes, which 46 minutes is better than 45. The aim, of course, is to make these an hour, but not necessarily can I talk consistently for an hour. That's why I think going forward with this podcast, we will talk for however long I want to in audio, and we'll stop the recording in audio, and then we'll move to visual elements to the camera so that I can then do some static shots stood still in the sense of showcasing. And if I've got an item I need to represent, to say, I'm talking about such a thing, for the visual viewers, you'll be able to see the thing I'm talking about. But for audio viewers, you'll still be able to hear the thing I'm talking about, which is a good thing, in my opinion. I always think, what's the word for it? I always think it's a good thing, if you will. Right? It's never a bad thing to try and develop, learn, and improve what's going on. Now, the current time in the UK on the 20th of February 2026 is 11:29. We've been going for 28 minutes and 43 seconds. So that's now it's 11:30. It's 11:30 on Friday, 20th of February. Din 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 din. Do 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 do. So I was sort of thinking, were we on the same plane? Did I start recording this at 11? No, I didn't. I started just after 11, it seems. So that's what we'll do. We will talk for however long I think is necessary in audio, then move to visual. Now, I want to talk briefly about availability in a sense of, if there's a franchise, why would the globalness of it not be available globally? So Taskmaster has a franchise, and they have board games and books in Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. I've got one of the Swedish books, so luckily it was available for a very brief amount of time, the first one, on British Amazon, right? Amazon UK. non-Swedish Amazon, which I personally think is a good thing. Now, the sequel was, but it was very limited. And then it wasn't anymore. It's like, what? If you're a fan of something, you would want the board game. So I've heard there's one in Portugal, I think. Cough break! Sorry about that. So what we get with this is that people then have to go, I'm going to spend £50 because you have to spend the money on the item itself, shipping the item, right? That's two things. So if you're on a website that doesn't have postage and packaging included in the price, you're spending the price of the item. So let's say the Danish box set, the Danish board game for the Danish version Taskmaster. So you've got, right, here we go. Number one, you have the cost of the item if postage and packaging doesn't come included. Second of all, you've got the price of post and packaging, right? Then you have the cost of it shipping to the person that you've asked to buy this from. So if you know someone from Denmark or Norway or wherever, you've asked them to buy the item for you. You've given them the money so they can buy the item. Then they've got to ship it to you, and that might not be cheap to you, so you have to pay for the shipping. So that's all cost an arm and a leg already, and that, in my opinion, is quite bad. Because if you really were going to want to do that, you don't. So having it readily available on Amazon globally would be good. The next thing is to get the TV shows readily available globally. Taskmaster created something called Taskmaster Supermax Plus, a streaming service for all things Taskmaster. For a while, it had Taskmaster for in the UK. It has Taskmaster Series 1 to about 12-ish, and we're currently about to air in March Taskmaster Series 21. Now, the thing we've noticed here is that it's not updated. Now, if you look at the way the website works, before you get into it knowing what country you're from, you get the sense of what's on the other versions. Now, the Channel 4 app, right, which is the on-demand of Channel 4, we used to have the first two series of Bestie Test, which is Taskmaster Sweden, and we used to have the first three series of Taskmaster New Zealand. And we didn't get the rest of Taskmaster New Zealand, which is very, 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 very annoying in every sense of the word annoying. Now, if you go to the website for Taskmaster Supermax Plus, you'll see international versions. Now, it does say the caveats of what countries, but for some glitchy reason, it does let you look into and add to a playlist the versions that exist that you don't have access to. These versions include Taskmaster Portugal, Taskmaster Quebec, Taskmaster Australia, Taskmaster New Zealand, Taskmaster Denmark, Taskmaster Sweden, Taskmaster Norway, Kongen Befaler, and I think that's about it at the moment. Oh, Taskmaster Croatia, and I think it's Taskmaster Finland as well. That's not every version ever, right? And that's like, oh, hey! That's really good. That's amazing. I have to watch all these versions of Taskmaster on one streaming service. Wow. But if you're in the UK, you can only watch series. And I can actually tell you now, actually. So it sort of puts you on a playing field of going, right, but we can already watch series 1 to 7 for free on UK TV. Series 1 to 7, no, Series 1 to 9 for free on UK TV. Series 1 to 7 on Disney Plus. And Series 1 to 20 on the Channel 4 app. So why could we not watch the international versions is a good question. So if you type in Taskmaster Supermax Plus. Now, no one really talks about this either. And I have a Taskmaster channel, Taskmaster World. And I didn't really I was thinking about ways of discussing this. But I wasn't too sure how I wanted to discuss it without sort of sounding like I was sort of complaining in a sense. I am. but I didn't want to damage the the sort of reputation of how it is for how it is. So I'm on the service right now, and if I sign in, I no longer have an account with it. Well, I no longer have the subscription, but you keep your account forever, which is quite good, because it means that I can keep an eye on it, and if I ever decide to sort of go back to it, I've got that option. I don't have to recreate an entire account and all that jargon, which is quite good, in my opinion. So let's have a look. So currently, we've got the 2026 special it looks. So we've got ready. I'm gonna just go down it. So we've got New Year's Treat 2023 Taskmaster UK, Series 1 Taskmaster UK, Series 2 Taskmaster UK, Series 3 Taskmaster UK, Series 4 Taskmaster UK, Series 5 Taskmaster UK, Champions and Champions 1 Taskmaster UK, Series 6 Taskmaster UK, Series 7 Taskmaster UK, Series 8 Taskmaster UK, Series 9 Taskmaster UK, Series 10 Taskmaster UK, New Year's Treat 1 Taskmaster UK, Series 11 of Taskmaster in the UK, Series 12 of Taskmaster UK, New Year's Treat 2 from Taskmaster UK, and the bleeped versions of Taskmaster UK. And on every other service, you've got more than that, right? Especially in the Channel 4 app that's free. So from my list, where when they've appeared on the thing of coming soon or whatnot, I can see it says there's Taskmaster Australia Series 3, not available in your country. Taskmaster Quebec Series 1, sorry, video not available in your country. Taskmaster Portugal, not available in your country. Right? Taskmaster Denmark. It sends me back to the beginning now. Yeah, it sends me back to the home page. Taskmaster New Year's Treat 2026, not available in your country. Great. Taskmaster Sweden, not available in your country. So, what we've learnt is it's not available in your country, and that is really disappointing because it means that the service doesn't get updated. Now, if you go to help, no one's there. So if you go onto a social media site of your choosing, because I don't think it generally matters, if you type in Taskmaster, right, they've got a lot on, so I'm not saying it's Master Super Max Plus. It's also available on YouTube as well for free, right? It comes up with, obviously, with Marvel, but that's because I need to spell the word Taskmaster correct. Taskmaster, right? Because then it'll come up with the Marvel superhero as well. So that 2024 was the most hot recent one. In 2022, I was about to start watching Taskmaster Series 10 and Taskmaster Super Plus earlier, and I noticed that both Series 10 and 11 are gone from the app. P.S. I love this show. I'm glad to watch it in Australia. So that person's come from Australia. Go to latest, right? The latest person on any given social media site was me. Hi, Taskmaster. When will you be updating Taskmaster Super Plus in the UK? I've done some research and it looks like the service has a lot more on it for people outside of the UK. This includes most of the international versions, right? And I tagged in the director and Taskmaster themselves, no reply. It looks like the Taskmaster lot are not replying, which it is sort of concerning for the service, but it does say that it's not being touched, and it might have been a collapse in a failure. I don't know necessarily. I don't know if it was a failure, but it hasn't got Taskmaster what do you call it? Taskmaster thingamajiggy on it. Junior Taskmaster hasn't got that on it, right? So 2023 was is the last thing I can see about it. So it doesn't look like there's been any updates, because when I look at it, there is nothing that says they're all about other things now, not about actual Taskmaster, because obviously it'll be generated to whatever word it's associated with. So that's really, really disappointing, but it's something that needs to be addressed. So I think that the next time someone talks to Alex on, they need to ask him about it, right? The next time it's brought up, someone needs to mention it, because it's a problem. It's a problem that might damage the franchise. Basically, if you're in the UK, write series instead of the other word. But it needs to just be fixed. I think there's a lot more needed fixing with Taskmaster Supermax Plus. And I think it's just not a competitor to other streaming services. I think it's sort of like one of the poor streaming services, because at least you could update the UK version to at least the current series that's on Channel 4. You could at least add the Taskmaster podcasts, because there's the official one, which is the main series one. There's Taskmaster People's podcast, and there is the the Norwegian version. And there's a lot of scope you can do with it, but sadly, the funness and sadly the achievement isn't being there. And I don't want to ramble on about it on Taskmaster 1, because that isn't the platform to do that. This is the right platform, because we're 41 minutes into the podcast. So whether or not anyone from the team that are producing that, look, I'm not saying the service is bad generally. I'm just saying it needs update here in the UK. The thing that will sell it for UK audiences is having the international versions of Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Portugal, Quebec, America, Belgium, Spain, Finland, Iceland, Netherlands, Estonia, all the versions, including the Finnish version of Junior Taskmaster and the Finnish version of UK Junior Taskmaster. Then, when you look into the international version and hear what people are saying, right, apparently the subtitles are off. So I think there's a Taskmaster community, and I will talk about more of this in our sequel visual version, because I think it's something worth highlight, and I will probably talk about this more on a Taskmaster World episode. But there is a group of Taskmaster fans who are personally translating each individual episode of different versions of Taskmaster into multiple languages, so more people can enjoy the franchise. I know that there's probably some legal jargon with it. I don't know the legal states of things. I know there will be some legal stuff to it. But Alex Horne's really proud that he's made a show that's worthy of that much talent. And there was that fantastic website that's sadly not going to be around for much longer. And it's going to a website thing called Fandom, which is terrible. It's a terrible website. But you can sort of see that there's love in all this. And so, there we have it. At 43 minutes, we'll be leaving the podcast there. Next, on this episode, Series 2, Episode 1 of ChatterBox, you'll hear me more chatting about more things and talking about everything there's anything I want to over in the visual realms. You'll see my lovely face. So if it's 15 minutes from 43, it is 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58. It'll be 58 minutes. Hopefully, it will be 58 minutes, and hopefully we enjoy the podcast. So, stay tuned for the next segment of the podcast. Hello, you've just heard the bit of the podcast. Hopefully you are enjoying it so far. I'm here on my iPhone, hopping into the visual realm to talk about the fact that each episode of the podcast that has a visual element, which might not be every episode ever, but it will be a good majority, because it means that I can record a chunk of it in one half of the day, then if I have other thoughts later on in the day, I can record another chunk and another chunk. So that's what will happen. Each individual part of the episodes will be recorded different parts of the day to generate an interesting episode of the podcast that encapsulates everything that the podcast is. ChatterBox is improving every single time I do it, and having this visual element now improves it a lot more. So without further ado, please enjoy the rest of the podcast in visual form, and I might stop doing those bits where I say, who's enjoying the rest of the podcast? Enjoy! Ooh! I might stop all that, because then it doesn't get too annoying. But I'm trying to beat 45. The audio recording ended at 43, and this is ending at 1 minute. So 43 is currently at 44 minutes! Woohoo! And when you hear me do the you might see the dance moves I do with it as well. And with the active tracking, the camera will go, follow me. Sorry if that gives anyone motion sickness, but we are where we are. Thank you for watching. Let's enjoy the Osmo Pocket, or as I like to call it, Osmo! I'm going to walk off that way, because we're in a visual element now, but I'm just walking off camera for anyone that's just listening to audio. I'm sorry that this bit audio isn't great either, but I found it on my phone because I thought, let's stop recording, and let's just record it and bridge the gap, so there's a bridge between the audio, and the visual, and the audio, and it's not just too dramatic. But enjoy. This is me trying out active tracking on the Osmo Pocket 3 Osmo. This is me trying it out where in a mode similar to how I would do on the podcast, which is what we're currently doing. Now, to round off the podcast, we want to talk about the future, really. And the future of the podcast is a bit more chatty Cathy. Yes. Now, I also am going to invite you in this podcast to learn how to sync up a microphone to a camera, because that's what we're doing in a minute. Well, on that load we're going to do, we haven't got long. So, first of all, you find out that it's the wrong way around the stand, so then you have to pick it up and move it. This is Learning 101 with Tom here on ChatterBox. Now that you've got your microphone in your stand, it's a little bit wobbly. You pick it up and you twist it at the bottom, and you find out that it's perfectly fine. Now, you walk with me to the box. You've got your box right here. Yeah, this is your recorder where you record the microphone. You've already accepted active tracking on the left camera, so you're fine. And now it says, now loading, with a sort of timer hourglass, I think. And then you just pretend to talk for a while. And you're loading, la 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 la, loading. Now it's on. So currently it says mono 1, which means 1. If you press the red button, now it says mono 2 to prove the point that this is the second. Let me just active track on that for a second. Right, so now you can see what that says, and then you active track back. Oh, whoa, excuse me. You active back track on me. Now you press the button again. You put it on the floor because you don't really want that in your hand, unless you're doing a handheld type thing and you'll put it in your pocket. Then you do this. Or, and then in the edit, you sort of find where the claps are. So, 1 clap is a spike. 2 claps is a second spike. 3 claps is a third spike. And on that third spike, you merge it together. And then, you remove the camera audio, apart from the bits before the clap, because we're including the claps into this. You then go, okay, I will keep that in, and hey presto, you've got a synced microphone. Da 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 disco. Da 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 disco disco da 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 da. Anyway, so to round off our podcast, because currently, and I'll tell you now for nothing, currently we're at 3 minutes, and you saw a previous clip I filmed on my phone. Not in 4K this time. This is filmed in 4K 60 frames per second. Anyway, so overall, I think that Super Taskmaster Plus needs improving drastically needs improving, and there's a lot that can be done to improve it. And I do think the main thing is to update what's being added to that. Whether or not that is to bombard Alex online saying, fix it to Supermax Plus, fix it, or just email Avalon or what, I don't know. You just have to find good ways to sort of deal with it. Because there is many ways to deal with a situation like this, and I don't know necessarily what those ways could be. There could be millions of ways that I haven't seen or tried, and to make it seem to work, you've sort of got to attempt to get these to work. Try it 10 times, try it 20 times, try it 30 times, try it 40 times. I don't know, but try 8 to 10 to 10 to 10, woo! But trying it all those different times might resolve or sort of ignite something in there. Now, our final topic, our very last topic. Let's talk about the topic, shall we? This is props. Yep, props. Now, I have a podcast called Comedy Breakdown, and in that I'm going to be talking about my journey into trying out PowerPoint comedy and trying out more prop-based humour. One of the things I like to do on things that have props. So I've been seeing a lot of these design things out there, which are mainly to wear around your neck, but it's like a crystal, but it's a funky designed crystal where blue, purple, other colours, but it's got the little silver bit to attach to the string or rope or chain to go around your neck. But I think that the colour of this said crystal is such a good colour, because if you don't know already, my comedy character Albert Flowerpot is experimenting with dimension hopping. Now, I own one of those thicker crystal things, and I don't think if you're on stage or if you're filming something, that would necessarily work. So having a smaller crystal that you can pop on your neck or you can just have hold of, right, in a sense of there's ways of attaching it, it looks less intrusive. And the light, because the crystal I've got is a purpley, silvery, greyish, like darker purple thing, but these are just silver and blue, and the main crystal bit is blue, right? The one I've seen online. So having a blue crystal you could easily in the edit sort of expand it with light. So it's like, so if you're watching the visual version, you'll see how I'm going to demonstrate this. So you get the crystal in your hand, right? And you imagine a bomb going off, and that ripple effect in films, right? But what you do is for the crystal is you sort of get the little eyedropper tool off whatever editing thing you're using and work out what shade of blue it is, and then try and get the massive light to go, and you can sort of like expand it. But if you film like a version of the shot without you in it, you can then merge those together and you're gone, and you've dimension hopped. I think that would be the most easiest way to showcase that rather than the crystal I've got. But I've sort of got to work out, well, narratively, how do I do this? I know I've generated some stuff for it, that's the doorbell. I know I've generated stuff for it, but you have to think to yourself, well, how are you going to make that the best it can be? How are you going to make that incredible, is my question. And the question, and the way to answer it is, it's hard. It's hard to work that out. It's hard to work out the ways to make it the best it can, because A, you've got to work out, is it funny? And B, you have to work out, is it logistical? Is it feasible, as my university would say? And that's the thing, you have to sort of like develop it in a way that goes, right, that's what I want to do. Okay. Not a bad idea at all. It's a fun idea, yeah, but not an incredibly bad idea. And you learn and you develop, and that skill, ultimately, is the best version of that skill possible. So having that mini crystal thing, and you're like, I've got a TARDIS version that's like that big. I'm staring at it now, to be fair, and having that around, you could easily just generate it so that you can go, and then you could time travel. That could be like a time traveling piece, but that wouldn't work as well because it's a recognized object. It's just a crystal. They use it in every film, every TV show that requires a crystal. It's like, crystals for aliens or see to the future. Ooh, and you learn more about that, and it develops over time as a concept. But, you know what I mean? There is props out there, so there's a lot of, like, replica sonic screwdrivers or original custom sonic screwdrivers that can help with props. I think if you find fans that are willing to make props and that make them beautifully, then you're on a win-win, but they could be very expensive. Just to caveat all that, a lot of these things are like in the tens of thousands. It's like, you're not going to spend that. If you can make it yourself at home, then you could, or if you could buy like a cheap, real version rather than a crafted, expensive one to your tastes. You get a cheap one that sort of still fits the bill, but it isn't exactly what you want. And eventually, in the future, you could get it to be the thing you want it to be. And I think that's the positives of that, is that it's all experiment, and that's what online's all about. The online world is all about experimenting, it's all about testing, it's all about learning, and that's what this podcast does. This podcast says, right, I'm learning, I'm testing, I'm developing, and I'm adding in visual elements to the podcast to work out how do I make this different to all my other podcasts, because I haven't got a studio. I've got this one static set that I can use on a regular basis. If I want to use another set, then I can't do it all the time or whenever I want. I have to wait until it's available. So you've sort of got to practice and learn and develop and all sorts, and it's a skill that people want to have and you should have. So there we have it. Thanks for listening to ChatterBox Series 2, Episode 1. Hopefully you've enjoyed the first episode. Hopefully you enjoyed the visual element on my iPhone and on my Osmo Pocket 3, or as I like to call it, Osmo! Thanks for listening. Hopefully this was more than 55 minutes. The clip, I ended my first recording on 43 minutes. I then recorded my phone for 2 minutes, so that's technically 45, and we've been recording on here for about 10-ish minutes. Obviously the audio recording says 9, due to the fact that we set that up after we started talking, so that you can hear the improvement in audio quality. But there we have it. I've got to go now. Bye-bye. Hello, this is Editing Tom here, editing the podcast for ChatterBox Series 2, Episode 1. Now, as you will be able to see in a couple of seconds, we are at the presser point of the edit, where if you can see if you can see, no, we don't want to enable active tracking. We are 58. Oh, there I am for anyone visual viewers. We are on 50. You can't really see it, so I do apologise. But we are on. Are you ready for this? 58 minutes and 2 seconds. So we've achieved the goal of beating the 45 minutes we're on with episode 6 of series 1. But what we want to do now is we want to sort of get to the point where we can get to an hour. Now, what I also thought I'd do whilst I am talking on this version of the podcast using the Osmo, as I call it, I want to showcase this. So, in the podcast, I demonstrate visually how to sort of piece together some of the sentiment of audio, right? Which is a bottom line if you're just listening. So if I zoom in, right, or if I zoom back out just so I know where I am, you can see, if you're watching it visually, that there is the audio line from the microphone needs to be patched up. So if we press play and we listen, right, so if we do that again, right, then if we mute it,
Or,
and you can see and hear,
and then in the edit,
it matches. So now what we do is you go to where the clapping begins. You press C on your keyboard if you're an Apple user. You press C on the bottom layer as well, because what you don't want is any of that. You don't want any of the before. You delete that by pressing whatever delete button you want to press. And you obviously go all the way to the end of your podcast, right? And just make sure that you cut the end off perfectly, because that is a key. You want to make sure you've got a key perfect. So this audio you listen to now isn't done by the microphone, so none of this will be applicable. So if we go to back, all the way back to here, get rid of that, highlight it, press the button, and link. If you can see, that says link, and then you link it together. So now if you unmute it, and if you press play,
do this. Or,
and now it sounds alright, because it sounds perfect, as the singer will want to. Now we're on to 57 minutes, right? So let's cut back to me as we end off this podcast. Now that we know that if you mix both visual and audio that it works, now all we need to do is take that forward for the rest of the podcast. So the rest of the podcast will now be visual and audio. And if I need to add any more in the edit, I can do, because that's what the podcast is all about. So thank you for listening to ChatterBox, and thank you for taking me on the ride for an hour that we've got it to. Bye-bye! Definitely bye-bye for this time.